Joining us today. Our presenter today is none other than Kushru Mirza. Most of us know him, but just a brief background about Kushru. Kushru was born in India and immigrated to Montreal, Canada in 1969.
You muted yourself, Arda.
You unmute yourself. Arda.
You hit the mute button.
Oh, he's frozen. One of the two.
Sorry, no. Sorry, I was talking to myself. Okay, I'll start from the beginning, just in case you didn't hear me. So today's presenter is our friend Kushru Mirza, and most of us know him, but I'll just give a brief bio about him. Kushru was born in India and immigrated to Montreal, Canada in 1969. He's a master mariner with degrees from India and Canada. The only thing I know about that business is taking a cruise. He ran a shipping company and also worked as a consultant before retiring and moving to Toronto. He has served as a president of both ZSC and actually as a vice president of OZCF. More importantly, or most importantly, I should say, he's a trained Mobedyar and has been actively involved in religious education and discussions since 1980. He's a great speaker. The topic of today is good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Is it all it takes? With that, Kushru, please.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction, Arda. Yes, as Arda says, the topic is good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Is that all it takes? Before I launch into that, I'd like to lay some, not ground rules, but some things that you can do. And basically, if you have questions, enter them in the chat. I got some very able moderators here, Adil Besania, Anaisha Madan, and of course our Taki is here, Mehbad, Dastur. So if you have questions, you can put them in the chat box and Adil and Anaisha will bring them to my attention. Or if you, and since this, our participants include a lot of learned Mobeds, if you, any of you feel that you want to contribute something to somebody's question, or if you have a comment to add, please hit the hand button, put your hand up, and one of us will spot you and you can unmute yourself and share your wisdom with us. The talk itself is not going to take up the whole 1 hour, so there will be a lot of time also for questions and answers. This is more in a chat format, so there will be an exchange of ideas and information here. Okay, so with that, I shall start off. Like I said, good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Is it all it takes in real life to be a good Zartoshi and a good person? Well, sure, but maybe that's what it takes. But that's like saying that all it takes for you to succeed in pop music is to write a hit song. It is doable, and anybody can actually do it, but it's not quite as easy as it sounds. It's not as simple. There are a few key guidelines to follow when you're writing a good piece of music. Just like that. You know, people are in the habit of saying, I don't know, you must have heard a lot of people saying, hey, I practice good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. What else do I need to know about Zoroastrianism in order to be a good Zartushti? Well, actually, you say you practice good thoughts, you say you practice good words, and you say you practice good deeds. Good for you. But sometimes what we think are good thoughts or good words or good deeds are not quite that. There are a lot of examples in real life where we start off with good intentions, but then end up doing something we shouldn't have done. So us, you know, we should be able to distinguish what is really a good thought. Is it a good thought? What is really a good deed? Because if you make a mistake, there are some pretty disastrous results, all out of good intentions. So here's the thing. In Zoroastrianism, in our faith, in Zartushti faith, we have been given, we believe that human beings have been given the freedom to make choices in life. Ahura Mazda has given us the freedom to choose. Having done that, He doesn't just throw us on the streets and say, you're on your own, kid. No, he has given us tools. And these tools help us to make choices, help us to decide which thoughts are good thoughts, which thoughts are good deeds, and which words are good words. These tools are the Amesha Spentas, or the divine attributes of Ahura Mazda. He has blessed us with these attributes. And these are meant to guide us to function properly in daily life. And to just refresh everybody's memory, we start with Vahumana, the good mind, a very important attribute. In fact, Stanley Inser considered it so important that in his translation of the Gathas of Zarathustra, he's mentioned the good mind in the first Gatha 57 times. So it's important. Then comes Asha Vahishta, or best righteousness, or as Taraporwala, Iraj Taraporwala called it, the changeless, eternal law of God. Asha Vahishta. Then there is Kshatravairya, or divine kingdom, or again, Taraporwala refers to it as Ahura Mazda's creative energy. Spenta Mighty, holy devotion. Horvatat, perfection, and Amritat, immortality. So let's take a look at what these attributes do. Vahumana, or the good mind, guides us to determine which thoughts are actually good thoughts. You know, we always say, use your good mind, use your good mind. A lot of us forget to do that very often. And there are some examples which I'll bring up a few minutes from now. Then comes Asha Vahishta, or best righteousness, or the eternal, changeless, eternal law of God. Here, we have a beautiful little prayer for that, Ashemvahu. And the Ashemvahu prayer reminds us about using Asha. Ashemvahu is translated by, here's I got D.S. Faramro's translation, when he says, Asha, or righteousness, is good, it is the best, it is happiness. And then he says, Ushtamaya Yatashaya Vaishtaya Hashem, which means the happiness to one who is righteous for the sake of the best righteousness itself. This is a very deep thought. You are truthful for the sake of the truthfulness itself. It stands on its own. It's important. You're not truthful because you're afraid of getting caught, or mommy told you to be truthful, but you're truthful because you believe in it. It stands on its own. Asha, it's a very key concept, a very key attribute that we've been given. Now, when deciding whether thoughts and words and deeds are good or appropriate, if we look at them through the lens of Asha, through the filter, then, and if we see that they conform to these changeless laws, i.e., that they do not have adverse effects, side effects on anybody else, then they will be okay. We have been taught that we're responsible for our actions and should be aware of the harm we may cause to others by our choices, either intentionally or unintentionally. There is a saying that says the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's a very old saying, actually. Dr. Johnson's supposed to have used it, but he used it from somebody else who had used it a couple of centuries before him. So the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So it's a good thought. Here's an example. It's a good thought to want to save the lives of animals, not to kill an animal. Now, in June 2010, a woman who was driving on the provincial highway in Candia, Quebec, stopped her car in the left-hand lane of the provincial highway and to help some ducks cross the road, cross the highway. Very good thought. You don't want to go over to kill the ducks, except she didn't use her good mind. She did not think of the consequences of stopping in the middle of the speedy lane of a highway with cars all over the place. there were disastrous results, fatal results, because of this action of hers. So there's an example of not using your mind when you think you're doing something good. Then comes Kshatravarya, divine kingdom of Aura Mazda, or Taraporwala again refers to it as Aura Mazda's creative energy. This creative energy or force guides us to perform service for our fellow creations. Here's a beautiful story, and it's a true story because we know the person involved in it. During the Irani Revolution, a friend of ours, he had been imprisoned in Tehran. These were bad times. People were being put in jail for thinking the wrong thoughts. She was in prison while she was pregnant with her first child. Now, at the same time, there was another lady in the prison with an infant baby. This little infant was always crying, and our friend realized that the crying was due to lack of nourishment. So her family used to send her care packages whenever it was permitted, so that she could adequately nourish herself, and as the baby as a result. She decided that the young mother's need was greater than hers. The young mother's infant was already born, hers was not. She started giving the food to that other woman in prison to help her. And that her need was greater than hers, this was a Aunavarya or the Yathavarya prayer in action, the way she handled it. She handled that you give aid or you help somebody when they need the help, not when it's convenient for you. And that's a very important thing to remember. A lot of us do a lot of helping and charity work, but very often there is a lot of trumpet blowing, or only when it's convenient to us. Otherwise, we sort of let it go. Now, this is, again, I'll come back to Professor Taraporwala. When he talks about the Yathavarya or the Aunavarya prayer in his divine songs of Zarathustra, he explains that this sacred verse clearly indicates the various paths to God: the path of knowledge, the path of love, and the path of service. So in order to understand this statement, let's look at the meaning of the prayer that was given by Professor Taraporwala. Just as the temporal Lord is all-powerful, so also is the spiritual teacher so powerful, by virtue of his store of Asha, truth. The gift of Vahumano, or the good mind, is bestowed upon him who works for Ahura Mazda, and the Kshatra or power of Ahura Mazda descends upon him who helps the poor and needy. So what does this mean in plain English? In simple language, it means that a spiritual teacher, or in fact, any person who follows the path of Asha or the divine vision or plan of Ahura Mazda, is just as powerful as a king or a ruler. This symbolizes the path of knowledge, your knowledge of the divine. Ahura Mazda showers the rewards of good thinking or peace of mind upon those who serve him with their good deeds. And he empowers people who help their needy fellow men with his kshatra or creative energy. These are the paths of love and service. The important thing to remember here is that we help those in need when they need it the most, and not just when we find it convenient to us. This is the true Zarathustri way of living. And comes Spenta Almighty, holy devotion or attribute that represents unshaken, unswerving faith and devotions. To quote Dastuji Dhala in his book, Zoroastrian Theology, knowledge is good, wisdom is better, but wisdom tinged with devotion is best. He also said, Vahumana teaches man to know Ahura Mazda. Almighty inspires him to love the Lord. We can and we should use the spirit of devotion to guide us into making the best decisions. This is where it was all going. See, prayers are good words, but prayers without devotion are empty words. Horvata, or wholeness of perfection, this is the reward that we reap when we lead a life that is dedicated to love and service to Aura Mazda's creations. That's the perfection. Amarata, immortality, which provides us with strength of soul. These attributes will be dealt with in much greater detail by my friend Edward Jahabagli during his talk next month. These attributes are actually the moral compasses that steer us towards making good choices and leading a good life. They serve as moral and social filters, which help us to formulate good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Knowledge of these attributes helps us to form lifelong habits, which makes us automatically pick the right choices when we are faced with making split-second decisions. And here I come to what a kind of question that somebody could and should have asked me during this talk, and they may still ask me in the chat for all I know. Yeah, it's all very good to refer to all these attributes, but when you have to make a split-second decision like that poor woman who had to put on the brakes, how do you do that? Where's the time? Well, if you get into the habit of applying these attributes to your way of thinking, you are then become trained. Your mind becomes trained to make these kind of good decisions at the right moment. This is an important exercise. You have to train yourself. When you train yourself, then these decisions fall into place. There's a thing about doing good deeds. Animals and animal rights and animal activism are very good and worthwhile causes, okay? But it pays to do some research before you take action. In 1977, there was a famous French actress called Brigitte Bardot. Now, most people my age will know Brigitte Bardot. I can see Jal shaking his head. She was appalled by the seal hunt and wanted to put an end to what seemed like a horrible, brutal practice. So that year, Brigitte Bardot went out on the ice and seized a baby pup, a baby seal, and took a picture, got her pictures taken, hugging a baby seal. Now, if you know anything about seals, this was done to raise awareness, but in all the wrong ways. Animal activists, environmental activists were first to start yelling at her because she was hugging that baby. And by doing that, she guaranteed that the baby's mother would now abandon it. That's the law of nature. Human beings hugging a little pup like that, the mother just stayed away. And because the mother stayed away, the baby was abandoned. When the baby is abandoned, it dies. So what Brigitte Bardot was trying to accomplish, she accomplished the opposite of that by not using her good mind, her creative energy to think things through before giving a photo opportunity on a piece of ice holding a baby pup of seal. There's another one. Donating food to the homeless is a good deed. Yeah, it is. There's no questioning it. But here's a little piece from the Reader's Digest. Judith Ray, founder of Judith Ray Academy, tells Reader's Digest, I was purchasing fruit at a truck where several homeless men were congregating. As I purchased my fruits, I bought apples to give each of them. Only if that was the end of the story. But as Judith handed out the last apple, one of the men told her, I'm sorry, but we can't eat these apples because our teeth are not strong enough. Can't blame the poor woman. Her heart was in the right place. But if she had taken a good look at these poor people to whom she was donating, she may have or may not have noticed her teeth were not up to the job of biting into apples. She could have chosen something else for them, something softer maybe, who knows. I can say that sitting in this chair here. I may not be able to say that on the spur of the moment, but again, that's where your training comes in. If you're trained to think in those terms, you will make the right choices. Here's the thing. There was an example of the right choices for good action. And this is from Socrates' time. There's an argument going on, and Cephalus suggests that justice involves nothing more than telling the truth and repaying one's debt. But Socrates pointed out that in certain kind of unusual circumstances, following these simple rules without exception could produce disastrous results. For example, if you borrowed a weapon and then you have to return it because obviously you can't keep something that's borrowed, by this time the man has become a murderer or mentally deranged. It's a bad idea to give him a sword. Straight from Dialogues of Plato. At this point, I'd like to suggest a small experiment with all our participants here. And I'm sure 162 of you will not be able to participate in the game. It will just become too cluttered. But the idea is, I'm going to lay out the scenario here. My two champions here, Adil Besania and Aisha Madan, will have the fun job of checking your answers and then somehow conveying your answers to the rest of the gang here. The scenario is this. You're on a street standing outside what looks like an abandoned building, waiting for somebody. Meanwhile, a person comes running around the corner, out of breath, and comes up to you and says, "Some very bad people are chasing me. If they catch me, they're going to kill me. Please don't tell them where I am," and promptly goes into the building. Your dilemma now is, what you gonna do? Are you going to tell the truth to the people who come up to you and say, "Where is this person gone?" Or are you going to lie? If you tell the truth, maybe this person is going to get killed. If you lie, then you're lying. And that's not a very Zarathustra thing to do. That is your sort of challenge. You can put your answer in and let us see. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just an exercise to see how you will react in a situation like this. And we will then discuss some of the answers. I'll give you what, 3 minutes? 2 minutes? Okay, Anisha says 2 minutes is okay. As a matter of interest, I did have this experiment in my religion class with 13 to 15-year-olds. I had some very interesting answers. So I'm kind of keen to see what answers you're going to see today. I like Giles' answer. Yes. All right, I think you can start reading out some of the answers if you like.
Sure.
Who is taking over? Anisha? Okay.
Sure, I'll start. Okay, so we have one that says, "Do not lie." Then we have, "I would lie to save a life." "I will protect the woman by lying." Although I don't know if we mentioned if it was a woman or a man that was running.
We never said woman or any.
Quite a few people have said they would lie or they would need more information.
I'd like to hear this need more information. What was that answer? How was it given? Just, I would need more information?
Needs more background.
Well,
That
you
was
don't have
the
more
point.
background in that speed.
Yeah, there was a "Call 911, stay quiet, silence is golden."
I see.
Yeah, quite a few said, "I will lie, walk away, not say anything."
I see. Okay, that seems to the consensus of opinion to save a life, that they would lie, Charles said he would hide in the building himself. I think I like that answer.
One of these answers actually, sorry, Kushanko, is very interesting. Someone said, how do you know who's telling the truth? How do you know the person who's asking you to lie for them is not the bad person and the group
There
are
you
good?
are. I was waiting for that answer. There you are. Here's the thing. You are standing there, lack of information. You don't know whether the person who is trying to hide is telling the truth or not. So your reasoning has to be pretty objective at this point. And fast. The best answer I got was from a 13-year-old in my class. He said, I will not tell them where this person is hiding, so I will lie. But as soon as the crowd is gone, as soon as the people who are chasing this person are gone, I would call the police and let them decide what the truth is. I won't take that responsibility. That was the little 13-year-old's answer, kind of intrigued me. So, where do we go from here? What do you think? Anybody else wants to add their own 2 bits on this? Any questions, Adil and Anisha?
There are a few. It just says, like, do we know if the person is telling the truth, which Anisha said, and
Yeah. Okay, let's finish with that experiment. Now, on the subject of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, are there any questions?
Yes,
Or
there's a
comments?
few. There's a
Okay.
few, so I'll start with the first one.
Okay.
Earlier on during your discussion, someone had said, concentrate in good thought without doubt, we create good feeling. Concentrate in bad thought without doubt, we create bad feeling. What is thought?
Very philosophical question. What is thought? Thought is that which is physical. We use thoughts to feed our subconscious mind. That thought then generates a subconscious mind reaction to that. And that then can translate into action or word. So the thought is yours, it's your physical thing. But given it to the subconscious mind, it shapes your word, it shapes your action. Any, does that answer your question, whoever asked it? You see, there's a very psychological thing that takes place. Even when you keep saying something to yourself, a thought, oh, I'm sick of this, I'm sick of that, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick. If you say that often enough, your physical reaction to that is going to be one of feeling not well. This is the power of thought, the power of the subconscious mind. Okay. There's a book by Joseph Peterson called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. In that, he tells this story of his father who was suffering from a terminal illness. Now, he had gone on a trip, Joseph Peterson. So when he came back, he had a wooden cross that he had got made on his trip. He gave it to his father and he said, this cross is made from the wood of the cross on which Jesus had been crucified. It has special powers. Wear it around your neck and it will help you. It will cure your illness. That thought of that kind of a power helped the father. He wore that cross thinking it's made from the wood of the crucified Jesus. And he got well. So answering this about the thought, the power of thought is very, very strong. Anything else?
Yeah, we have one more question, Khushroo uncle. It says, how do you choose your thoughts? Do Zoroastrians worldwide believe in duality?
Now, here's the thing. Let's define duality. Duality meaning the two natures, the two spirits, the good spirit and the not good spirit, the positive spirit and the negative spirit, then everybody has that. Everybody has the duality in that respect. Sometimes duality has been interpreted as, oh, Aura Mazda created two evil and a good spirit, or sort of beings. They become entities. But the reality is, Aura Mazda did create a spirit. The spirit has two ways of behaving. Your choice creates that way. If you choose correctly, then it's a positive, good spirit. If you decide to make the wrong choices, then now you have given way to your not good spirit. That is your duality. Human beings decide what is evil by their actions, by their choices. Aura Mazda did not create evil. Evil is not created. Evil is a choice, result of a choice. Does that answer your question?
There
mean,
is a,
Go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, there is a person who would like to unmute and ask a question.
Okay,
It was Mr. Firdosh Mehta. Would you want to
Okay.
unmute and ask your question?
sure. Hi, Firdaus.
Let me see if I can find it.
Have you got him? Firdaus? You may unmute yourself and ask the question.
Let's look at
We can move on while Firdaus is unmuting himself.
Sure. Jerry, I think I saw your hand up as well. Did you have a question still? No, you're good? Okay.
Oh, Jerry, it's nice to have you. I haven't seen you for a year. Okay.
A lot of people said that they would just stay quiet, and then somebody asked, by being quiet, you are lying, right? So is it like?
Sometimes that is true. But it is on a case-by-case basis. In a situation like this where somebody's life is at stake, fast decision is so important that you may not make the right decision. But if you've been trained in your mind all the time, you will make the right decision. Yes, Firdaus, how are you?
And thank you. Thanks, Khushroo, for your very erudite explanation about all the wonderful things about our faith. However, this issue of good thoughts, good words, good deeds has been kind of with me since I was a teenager, trying to wonder what it's all about. To me, it is not a big deal. Every faith, even atheists, agnostics, can believe in good thoughts, good words, good deeds. So what is the big importance of that in Zarathustri religion or any religion? Now, I have tried to analyze it, and I'll come up with my question after I get some background work done. And to me, truth is two kinds of truth. One is the material world truth, which we normally look at the practical truth. You see this happen, see that, like you go to court and bear witness. I am talking about the spiritual truth, the truth that is about what prophets are all about. Not just a simple judge or a lawyer or a father or a uncle can teach you. So from the spiritual truth point of view, all religions prescribe a path to salvation, moksha, nirvana, whatever you want to define as, or being one with the Creator. This is different from atheism and agnosticism. They do not define a path. And to me, what Zarathustra defines the path, in my understanding of the Gita, and I could be wrong, is that Hamesha Spentas is Zarathustra's message to be one with the Creator by following the steps from Vahumana all the way to Amaritat, which is being one in your soul or one with God. And this is what we have to do now. What, therefore, the Hamesha Spenta actually tell us is the what part. How we do it is the good thoughts, good words, good deeds. We have converted that today into one with the other, and good thought, good deeds, good words have now suddenly become what we have to do. No, that's not what we need. We need to follow the Hamesha Spentas to reach salvation. And how we do it is through good thoughts, good words, good deeds. What is your understanding of this analysis?
I think that's very well put. It is really the spiritual truth that we're talking about. The truth of how to finally do the work of Ahura Mazda in eradicating evil. And that job has been given to human beings. It's the human beings making the right choices that then negates the evil. It refuses to let evil become important. And when that happens, evil slowly, slowly, slowly diminishes, and through lack of nourishment, disappears. So that's the big truth.
Even that, just what you described, is that not described in the path of Hamesha Spentas?
Absolutely.
This is our path to salvation, or
And those are,
Meritat is immortality, being one with the Creator.
that is it. And those are the tools that have been given to us to make our way through life. Without those tools, we're floundering around and making wild guesses.
Thank you.
Thank you, Firdaus. That's very well put. What else you got?
We don't have any other questions in the chat. If anyone has anything, you can just raise your hand and we can get to you.
Maruk Tamboli with her hand up. Yeah, we'll just ask her to unmute.
Sure. Unmute yourself, Maru.
Okay. So I'm a little confused. Our souls are pure. We have a choice of good and bad, right? So why is there evil in the world in the first place? Where does this evil come from? And my next point is, speaking to your dissertation on truth, I read this book, which is, I don't know, The Evolution Angel. It's an emergency physician's lessons with death and the divine. It's by Dr. Michael Adams. He explains his own experiences with dying patients and how thoughts convert to, he's obviously not Zoroastrian, but how thoughts convert to actions and words and deeds. So I found this very helpful, this book, to explain what you were just explaining. But I still don't know, where did evil come from?
Evil is described very often as the absence of good. Just as when there is a light, there is a shadow part. The absence of light is the darkness. So in an analogic manner, evil is the absence of good. It did not get created. It is just a result of choices made by human beings. If you say a volcano is evil, I would disagree with that, because volcano is a nature's own phenomenon. You don't build your house on the crater of a volcano. You don't build your house where the ocean is going to erode the land away. You don't build a house along the fault line of an earthquake. So those are choices that you make in how to deal with nature, learning to live with nature. Calling nature evil is a wrong thing we do very often. Illness is the absence of good health. We are not made infinite. Our bodies are made that they will eventually not function. And that's because they are physical. The spirit is immortal. Ahura Mazda, Osho Zarathustra talked about the immortality of the soul. And the soul lives on. The body will wither and go. It's a temporary thing. But it's an important thing. The human beings in that respect have a very, very serious job to do. And that job is that when all human beings decide en masse to negate evil and to make right choices, that's when Frashokereti will happen. The renewal as is mentioned in the gathas and in the other scriptures of Zarathustra's followers.
So if I'm hearing you properly, what you're saying is there is no such thing as evil, which we were taught as children, but instead of saying we are fighting evil, we should perhaps teach our children that and learn that we are not necessarily fighting evil, we're propagating truth and light.
Very well put. Very well put. That's, you see, when you use positive language, you're already getting rid of negative language and its implications. A very good article in this Spring Fezana, I just finished reading it this morning, about the auto-suggestions and the language we use to help ourselves make the right choices. And I like that article very much. In its absolutely sort of gels with what you just said, Maruk.
Thank you.
We have a few more questions, Khushroo uncle. The first one is from Khushi, the engineer. She asks, why do bad things happen to good people?
Hi, Khurshid, show yourself. Where are you hiding? Khurshid and I taught religion class together. Bad things happen to good people. Let's define the bad things, Khurshid. Then we will be able to better answer that question. How about that? Unmute yourself so I can talk to you. Where are you?
Let's take a look.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. Hi, Khurshid.
Hi.
Hi. So, why do bad things happen to good people? Let's define the bad things. Let's take a couple of cases. How about that? Give me an example.
Somebody who's extremely religious follows the path of Ashra, good thoughts, good words, good deeds, and suddenly somebody in her family, very loving person, is very, very sick.
Sorry, your audio is not very good. I'm having a hard time hearing everything.
I put it in the chat.
Khushidanti, you do that and we'll just move on to the somebody who has their hand up, Gita Bahramipur. So while Khushidanti types, maybe we can take her question. Then I see R Rivetna's hand up too.
Yeah, Roshan. Okay, Roshan. So we'll come to you after Bahramipur.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gita, you want to unmute yourself, please?
Thank you so much. Yes, how are you? I think I'm just happened to drop into this heaven of my teachers I always dreamed to be with and learn from. It's indeed a blessing to be all among all the Zoroastrians. I am Iranian. I am born as a Zartushti in a Zartushti family. And as an Iranian, you just kind of know good words, good deed, good thoughts. And as all of you, more than Iranian Zoroastrians, are indeed kind, nice, and famous in the world for being the best people. So I just want to be like you, a true Zoroastrian. But my question here is a very simple one. You know, I have these thoughts, no doubt. And my thoughts are coming in many ways. Sometimes I think about my kids, that what are they doing in New York? Are they okay? And that obviously creates the feeling of anxiety or sometimes fear. And sometimes I think about good things like, oh, I'm going to buy this or I'm going to do this. And oh my God, my kids did this. And those are obviously make me feel good. So those feeling that it creates within me, I consider them as a good thought as I'm thinking. It's pure thinking in my mind. So the question, it comes, what's the difference between we're thinking and a belief? Because I believe that you are my teacher, I'm still thinking. Those words are in my mind. So the thoughts are randomly come in me. Sometimes I sit around and I'm just thinking about something. I don't know something. So the question is, do we have a control of those thoughts? Do we even know those thoughts are coming? Are we noticing those thoughts? And do we have a control of those thoughts that make them good, therefore I feel good, or make them bad, I feel bad, or make them good as I make somebody else, as you know, when I'm thinking of helping somebody. So obviously the action with that comes in, like, oh, get up and do something for your kids, and I will be doing something. That's a thought. But do the thought control my feeling? If I have a toothache, that's a feeling. The second thing, I'm like, oh, I have a toothache, then the feeling can get up and control me and call the doctor, and I'm in a doctor's office. But the question is, do the thoughts control my behavior? Thank you. Do my thoughts control my behavior is the question. Thank you.
The answer, thank you for that interesting question, Vita. The answer, as far as I can see, is what you do with those thoughts. You cannot control thoughts coming into your head. They will come into your head. But after that, how you react to those thoughts is in your control. That is what makes the difference. You can get a thought, I got a toothache, and your bad feeling is, it's hurting. Now, what you're going to do about it? You said you call the dentist. Fine. The opposite of that would be if you sit at home feeling miserable and thinking that the pain will go away and gets worse and worse and worse. This is purely the result of your reaction to the thought, your reaction to the feeling. So kind of not the best choice in the world to make. If you're really, really feeling bad with a toothache and you bite into an apple after that, you're really going to hurt much more. So this is where we have the choice. We have the option. We have the freedom to choose how we react to bad thoughts as well as to good thoughts.
Thank you so much for that answer. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next one is, I think, Roshan.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi,
Thank
Roshan.
you.
How are you doing?
Hello. Yes, there's one thing that I really agreed with Maruk's previous question, and nobody's ever given an answer that satisfies about why bad things happen to good people. Let me give you a specific example of every day on the news in Chicago. We keep hearing this violence, gang violence, shooting of. Now here's a young mother and a child, a baby, driving, doing their day's work. And from nowhere comes this violence, and for no reason, the baby is shot and killed. So why do that kind of a bad thing happen to a little baby?
Roshan, here is the thing. These things are not preordained. Now, this poor woman happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the gangbuster happened to not know how to shoot a gun. Between the two of these things, this wrong choice, not on part of the woman. She was going about her business in a harmless manner. But the gangbuster who did the shooting is the one who created the evil in this situation. His choice, first of all, of using a gun to settle a difference between him and somebody else was, first of all, the poor choice. And in my humble opinion, he doesn't know how to shoot. That's the second thing. We have this happening. We were talking about this before we started the meeting about the shootings that are going on in Toronto between gangs. And they really don't hit straight. If they were hitting straight, they would hit each other, but they are shooting wild. And a lot of innocent people are getting hurt with that. And these are not preordained things. These are very, very sad results of very poor judgments and choices made by human beings. It's a generational problem, that it's not something that is preordained, that thou shalt suffer. This child shall die at the age of 5, and this person shall live to be 99. No, human beings are, first of all, finite. You're not going to live forever. We're going to have illnesses. Some of the illnesses are preventable. Some of them are not. So this is the way to look at such sad situations. I mean, otherwise we'd be bogged down in saying, why are you doing this to me, Aura Mazda? He's not doing it to us. We are the results of our own choices. This is firmly a Zoroastrian belief. Do you agree with that?
Well, maybe.
I'd be happy.
I agree. I agree that I'm not blaming God for this. I'm not blaming Aura Mazda for this.
Correct.
But why did the little innocent baby suffer for some? How do we prevent it? How can we use our Zoroastrian teachings to form some group to work on this problem? What can we say to them?
Well, I think that's the question to which a lot of politicians are trying to find an answer. But politicians being politicians, they get sidetracked from their goal, from their mission. But education is one of the key factors involved in this. And the other thing is hopelessness. Hopelessness. When a young person is faced with hopelessness, these gangs can prey upon that person to recruit him or her into their nefarious activities. You understand? So to actually address this thing, many politicians will become heroes if they successfully address that particular thing. We were talking of a place called Jane and Finch in Toronto before this meeting started. Every day it's in the news with something bad happening there. Why is that one area so bad? Because there's a lot of hopelessness. When there is lack of hope, they are fervent ground for the nasty people to prey upon. You understand?
Oh.
And that can be addressed. It's the reality, but it requires political will.
For you.
Okay, now who's the next? Firdaus?
Yeah, sorry, we have a couple of questions in the chat, so I'll just include one of those before we go to the raised hands.
Okay.
You've already touched on this, Khushroo Uncle, so just a quick statement on this. The question was, did Asha Zarathustra use darkness to explain evil, or is it the Western norm that was adapted by us? Darkness is eternal. Any source of light is destined to end. A light bulb burns out, a fire dies, even the sun will eventually burn out. Darkness of empty space is eternal. Any thoughts?
The thought is that in the Gathas, he refers to the two spirits, and one spirit created good, and the other spirit of our nature created not good, created life and unlife, life and not life. Those are the words used in the Gathas. So to answer about the darkness, if you extend the analogy between life and not life, then light and not light. Do you understand?
Not really. Why is darkness associated with death? Because you said life and death.
Okay.
I'm saying darkness and light.
Darkness and light.
Yeah. So why are you associating darkness with evil?
Because the way to describe evil by some people at least has been good and the absence of good.
But that's my argument, that this is the Western norm that we have adopted. If you look at all the Eastern thought, they don't talk about darkness as evil. In fact, right now in astronomy and astrophysics, the dark energy and dark matter is considered to be the source where everything is going to get absorbed into that.
Okay.
And so when we say darkness as evil, people immediately think that night means, okay, everything is going to be evil. And suddenly when the sun comes out, everything is all good. When people do this thievery and robbery and other things in broad daylight.
Your point is very good. Unfortunately, I think you are you're correct that darkness should not be associated automatically with evil. or conditioning of human beings being what it is, Granny always used to say, nothing good happens after midnight. It's a result of that thought.
Exactly, and
But
then,
you are
and then
right.
we bring up children with fear like this right from the day they are born. When we say that if you don't do this, Dadaji punish karse, or Dadaji will do this and that, and we continue doing this even now after having such so much knowledge about our faith and other faiths kind of stuff. So I just wanted to make a comment that probably we should think how we bring up children and not instill certain fears in their head even before the fears get in.
100%. 100% right, Boris.
Thank you.
Language is very important. And like I said, that article that I just quoted a little while back about using the correct language, the correct words is so important.
Thank you.
Thank you for raising that point. It's a good point. And who was next in line?
We can go to some of the people that are waiting with their hands
Okay,
up.
so I think Firdos's hand was the next one, and then Kawa's.
Firdos Mehta, you want to unmute yourself? You are.
Thank you. Thank you. Since the topic today is good thoughts, good words, good deeds, I would like to share something that I learned after coming to Vancouver recently in my retirement, where there is a much larger Zarathustri Iranian population than we have the so-called Parsi Zoroastrian. And I would like to promote this thought. Please, all of you consider, especially my Mobed friends, that when we translate good thoughts, good words, good deeds in English from Persian, and also it is done in Cyrillic, the Russian language, they do not translate Tendara Nik, Goftare Nik, Kerdare Nik to good thoughts, good words, good deeds. They translate it to noble thoughts, noble words, noble deeds. Let's pick on that, because one man's good could be another man's not so good. But noble is a very difficult thing to argue about because it is mostly good. That's just a proposition on the table to pick up if you like.
I read in a philosophy paper that my grandson was doing, where the word noble was being questioned. And that was the nobility who was drumming this word to make the poor feel bad. And so everything good was noble. But you see where I'm going with this, Firdos. Language is a tricky thing. And
yes,
so,
but you are just playing on words.
No, but this is what it is. It is playing on.
Pick the right meaning.
Sure.
Don't worry about it.
Sure. I think beneficial, or again, beneficial in the right way, because somebody will say, yeah, it's to my benefit to rob a bank. No, that's not beneficial. You see, you can get bogged down with this.
That's why truth and falsehood are based on facts. I mean, good, beneficial, noble, all those things are subjective, noble for whom, beneficial to whom, and so on.
That's true.
Whereas truth is truth. Whether we accept it or not, that's a different story.
Yes.
Because you cannot question truth right now.
No, you are right. This word, the way it was in the Shemo prayer, I strongly suspect that in Plato's Republic, when Socrates talks about justice, and he uses exactly the words in the Shemo prayer, justice for the sake of justice, because justice is good in itself. So when you say the truth, the spiritual truth, that's where you're going with that, Boris, I think. Anything? Can we go to Kawas now?
Just before we hit that, Kushru Aunty did type in her question again.
Oh, good. Okay.
So essentially, she was asking is, for example, someone who's very religious, follows the path of Asha, goes good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, but she suddenly falls very ill. Or just an example, anything else bad happens in the family. So why does bad things happen to good people who do follow the religion?
And I would have to repeat that thing that these are not preordained. This illness happens. Unfortunate that it happened to a good person. It is unfortunate it happens to anybody, first of all. But a person who's trying to be the best for everybody, and then that person suffers a setback like that, it is very unfortunate, but at the same time, it's not preordained. It's not something that Aura Mazda build down upon you or upon that person. The Khurshid, I hope I've answered your question there. I can elaborate on it if you would like. We did that a little while back though. No?
She said not really, so I assume that
Okay.
didn't answer her question.
Didn't answer the question. Anybody want to jump in on this one?
I would like to
Yes,
add
Jerry,
some.
Jerry, I'd like Jerry to answer that.
Okay.
Hi, so can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, talking about the topic of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, I think the topic of good and bad is very subjective. And one common denominator that underlies all the existence for humans or animals, the one common denominator that underlies existence is suffering. So I think that I think this is again personal thought that engaging in action which can reduce the suffering of all the living beings would be considered good, part of a good deed. Can we all agree on that? I mean, nobody would say that inflicting harm or increasing the suffering of something, or human or animal that is already undergoing suffering, increasing that is something good, right? So I think
That's a judgment. That's
right.
a judgment.
Again, sure, of course, it is again my personal thought. So I think the decreasing the underlying suffering is the common denominator that common denominator for all living beings. And if you can engage in action that can reduce the suffering, that is something which can definitely be considered a part of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. And when we talk about suffering, one thing that I have personally experienced in my life is that suffering doesn't necessarily, I mean, yes, all the religions and so many theories and philosophies that we read, they usually say that suffering is considered bad. But honestly speaking, suffering is not necessarily always bad. Sometimes suffering does come to teach us a certain lesson. It can be anything, maybe patience, maybe help us build character, or in some or the other form. It's totally based on perspective as to how you take it. Suffering is the ultimate reality. I mean, not the ultimate, but it is one of the realities of life, and it totally depends on how how you look at it. You can either let it break you, or you can either let it make you. It's totally, again, very, very subjective experience, the suffering as well, like how you take it, right? So it depends on you whether you are trying to learn whether you are trying to learn something from it, or whether you are just wallowing in your suffering. These are just my thoughts again, of course.
Nicely put.
Thank you.
Mr. Kawas Desai said he had a comment on this subject as well. And since you have a question, do you want to unmute and speak?
Kawas, can you unmute yourself? Kawas, please unmute. Yeah.
My question is that is there reincarnation in Zoroastrianism, Khushroo?
Not from what I have read, although Taraporwala in his gathas, in one gatha he says this one life on earth, and he expounds on that in the notes. Another gatha where he's kind of a little less sure about his statement. And that's the two references I've come across with the subject of reincarnation, to my knowledge. There may be others who have more on that.
Because there is a school of thought that why bad things happen to good people, it's a question of karma and reincarnation. That what your previous
didn't Dastoji Khurshid Dabu talk about rebirth?
That's exactly what I was going to ask about karma.
It's a question which has not been answered.
Khushroo,
I put in the chat, Kawas, also.
Didn't Dastoji Khurshid Dabu talked about rebirth?
Yes. So there are two schools of thought. The Shnoomists believe in reincarnation.
I presently, my wife and I are part of a book club where this is a hot topic of discussion. And my friend Jalan Mehra right there, Mary smiling away because it's the topic closest to her heart. unmute yourself. But anyway, I have a question on this subject. If you talk about past life karma and the consequences of past life karma, we go down a road that I find very difficult, because in that concept, something that you did in this life, which was harmful to somebody, which built up the so-called bad karma, you pass away, your soul then goes and decides to be reborn, and to be reborn with certain things which would teach that next life person a lesson to correct past life karma. But in that case, the human being whose body has been taken over by the soul to learn a lesson, the human being has not been told why. That human being suffers, but not understanding why, because it was something that happened in the past life karma. I'm having a great difficulty reconciling that with the result.
Khushroo, I'm not sure about reincarnation at all. I mean, I have two thoughts on the matter. There is a school of thought which believes in it. There's a school of thought that does not believe in it. I'm not sure whether there is or whether there isn't. There are authorities who say that there is. There are authorities who say there is not. All I'm commenting on is that this is one of the answers as to why bad things happen to good people.
Yeah, it's just that it would be a much cleaner answer if during that time that person is given the explanation of why the bad thing is happening.
Kushru, may I say a comment?
Certainly. Kawas, Dolly is answering.
Karma does not necessarily have to be for reincarnation. It could have been what you've done in this life itself. What you do comes round, you know.
Yeah.
So something what you have not done good before, something which you may come back to haunt you.
Yes.
And
During this life.
Maybe
Dolly, in this life, I agree with you 100%. If it's a action and reaction are equal and opposite, but it is now. It is not a past life karma.
I believe it in this life. In
this life karma.
Nothing to do with the other life.
I'm on board with that. This life karma, I'm fully on board with that. Anybody else has thoughts on that?
Hey guys, can I, if I could just announce, sorry to interrupt, we're having a very, very thoughtful discussion. And these discussions have been going around for a long time. And I'm not sure if you're going to resolve everything today. It's 10 minutes past the hour, and maybe for another 5 minutes if people have questions.
I'm on with that. Anybody else?
Yes, we had a question. We had a person who's been waiting for a few minutes now. There was a Jamie P who had a question. If they want to unmute and ask.
Sure.
Hello.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi. Going back to that Dwala question. That guy, the Dwala.
Yes.
Is he by any chance related to Nazanin Dwala?
Sorry, I didn't.
Is he any by chance related to Nazanin Dwala?
Oh, I think he typed it in chat. Is Daruwala guy related to Nazanin Daruwala? Is that what you're asking, Jamie?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure about that. If whoever the Daruwala person was, or Nazanin, if they want to answer.
I have no answer for that one.
Yeah, even I don't know.
Thank you.
Whoever, if there's any person with the last name Daruwala on this call, you can just type your response to Jamie.
Thank you.
Jal has his hand up.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Jal uncle. Jal uncle.
Okay. Yeah. So people are saying there is no reincarnation in Zoroastrian religion, which is very true. But why there is no reincarnation in Zoroastrian religion is because we are supposed to follow, as Mobedyar Mirza mentioned, path of Asha. Path of Asha includes good thoughts, good words, good deeds, charity, truth, all those good virtues. If you live your life with all those good virtues, have you created any karma? And if you have not created any karma, then there is no question of reincarnation. The soul have a choice to remain in the spiritual world to enhance itself, but it might take a very long time to do so. And there are certain experiences that the soul has to have that only can be experienced in the body. And that's why the soul has to reincarnate. That's my answer.
Jal, the question is that I do not believe in reincarnation, but there are two sides to the story, and this is going to be a never-ending debate.
Absolutely.
I don't think that we will ever be able to solve it because
this is because either you believe it or you don't believe it.
Exactly.
And like Alda said, right now we are running short of time, and this is going to take a long time to discuss.
It's a very good subject to keep it separately.
Yeah. We know that because we
should all die and then we come back and let you know.
Hi, Dolly. That's good.
I would suggest, so I was going to ask you, Mirza Sahib, what do you think after reading Arday Viraf Name? What does that suggest? If there is reincarnation or?
No, he just went to visited heaven, hell, and Amestegan. He just went on a trip of all these places, and getting high on some nice stuff, and he came back and gave his report. And Dante copied him after that. Dante did a copy of Arday Viraf Name in his
Can I just say that if we consider all spirits, all souls to be just one, then we can say that if this person's child died of a shooting, it was because the whole spirit, the whole universe did something wrong. And what was it that they did wrong? They did not give hope to the shooter. They did not educate the shooter. So it wasn't the mother's fault that the child got shot, but we are all one spirit and we did something wrong. And in the Gathas, it states very clearly that if you do something wrong, you will get the repercussions. But it is not one-on-one necessarily. The repercussion may be from the whole spirit. And that's the way I see it. So you don't need reincarnation.
You are right, Maru. It's a very deep subject, but what you said just now about the giving hope or taking away hope has a very valid point to it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that with us. One person.
I'd like to say something.
Can I ask Bahumata?
I'd like to say something.
No, hold on a minute, please. This hand was up for a long time. She kept going back and forth. What's her name?
Karishma.
Karishma, please. Unmute yourself because you've been very patient all this time. So, Karishma, where are you?
I'll find the person.
Thank you very much for allowing me
there
to
she is.
speak. Thank you very much for this wonderful discussion today, which the three things that I want to say. First of all, we've implemented what's in the Gathas. We've got the word kratum, which is the wisdom of the good mind, like in the 28.10, where we say khartum manango, vangeush khartum manango. Then we have the word chistoish, which is to reflect upon our dhyana or the religion and the knowledge that comes from that. And then we have in 48.15, we have the word the introspection, which is tushnamaitish. And today I think we have reflected upon all three, the wisdom that comes from outside, the wisdom that is innate, and the other two. We also, something that I wanted to say was we have the opportunity to think about things with limited knowledge. And when we say it is or it isn't in the Gathas, sometimes I often think we have a limited resource of the Gathas. We don't have the entire knowledge in front of us to take rational decisions made on existing knowledge. That knowledge is itself limited. So it's often what I hear in entrepreneurship. You have to take decisions and take action based on limited knowledge, based on the wisdom of the good mind. And I think the third thing that I wanted to say was, it is very true, like we said, that action comes as a whole is also true. An action comes, and it's clear in the Gathas that action comes for, or reward comes for the outcome, not from somewhere, but from the action itself, or the thought, or the energy we put out. And then it comes back to something that I remembered Mobed Sahib Kobad Zarolia telling me, that Aura Mazda is Aura Mazda for a Zartoshti, which we can take as the supreme energy, or like the lady Maruk Tamboli said, the energy altogether, if we want to look at it as the entire consciousness together. But the moment we think of it as something else, then we are trying to apply the Gathas, which look at Aura Mazda with the concept of God as a different concept by definition. So if we apply a rational mind to this, then we're taking a Gothic concept and trying to apply a completely different rationale. But in the Gathas, we have Ahura Mazda, as Kobad Sahib has explained to me, rather than something else that is a supreme something else. So the concept of Fresho Kerati goes with Yazamaide, but today I was talking to, the last point I want to make, I was talking to Mobed Sahib Zarir Bhandara, and he gave me a completely wonderful answer for Yazamaide. He said, it's not just we revere, but when we revere something, we become one with that thing.
Very true, very true, Karishma, because the other way of saying Yazamaide is we are in accord with. Okay, we say, yes, we revere also, but I have seen the translation where it says we are in accord with, which actually gels with what you just said. Thank you very much for bringing that up.
Thank you, and my gratitude to Meher Amal Saji, who's made it possible for me to get all this knowledge from all of you great people. Thank you.
Hey guys.
All right, one last point.
It's 16 minutes past the hour.
Okay.
So maybe we should end here. And we sincerely thank Mirza Sahib for the wonderful